Welcome, and thank you for joining for another whiskey review. Today, we're going to be taking a look at the Ardbeg 22-year-old, 46.4% ABV. This will round out my series on the Ardbeg 20-somethings. There's only 3 in the series, so not a big series. The 21, which Billy and I brought you a year and a half, 2 years ago. The 23, which I brought you recently. And then finally this 22-year-old, which was the last release from the old Ardbegs. From the whiskeys that were actually produced at the distillery before it got closed down. So, tell you a little bit about this 22-year-old. It actually comes in at the highest ABV of the 3 at 46.4%. The 23 was at 46.3 and the 21 was an even 46, which is essentially the standard for the 10-year-old Ardbeg. So if this is the first time you're watching one of my reviews, Ardbeg is an Islay distillery off the west coast of Scotland, known for their very peated whiskeys. Ardbeg in particular holds a very fond place in my heart. They make some of the best whiskeys, especially peated whiskeys on the planet. And these older 20-somethings have been a real treat. I was able to get plenty of the 21 and the 23-year-olds. They were readily available here in Columbus, Ohio. However, this 22-year-old never was. It is the least produced of the 3 by, from what I can read, a wide margin. I believe only roughly 6,000 bottles of this 22-year-old were ever made. So to get your hands on it, it's kind of rare. And as I just mentioned, they never hit it here in Columbus, Ohio. I do shop online. I do go out of state to buy bottles at times, but this one was actually given to me for the purposes of review by my good friend, D2 Silv, Dustin. Thank you, my friend. We had a epic drinking night, and we had about 10 incredible single malt Scotch whiskeys, as well as some Taiwanese Calaban whiskeys that were really nice, and a couple of bourbons that were incredible, the King of Kentucky, a few other ones. Matter of fact, I'm just gonna put a picture right here of essentially what we had to drink that day, and I never got around to the Ardbeg 22. So Dustin said, you know what, go ahead, I'm gonna leave it here for you. Actually, that's a lie. I said, Dustin, I need to review this 22. Will you leave it here so I can have a few drinks, get to know it, and then bring it to the people on my whiskey review channel? And he graciously said yes. So Dustin, once again, thank you for letting me borrow this 22. Fill levels about here. So Dustin had got to know this bottle pretty well. You know, so it's oxidized plenty, which is what pretty much is going to be my standard going forward as far as bringing you guys whiskeys. I want to make sure that the bottle's been open for a while. That way I can give you the best version of it as far as smell and taste. All right, so let's get back on it. Ardbeg 22, the last one of the 20-something series, and the last one that we're going to find from the old distillery. This one was distilled way back in '96. It is bourbon matured only, just like the 21. So it has no sherry cask maturation whatsoever, as the 23 did. So this one should be far more Ardbeg 10 than Ardbeg Uigeadail, if you're familiar with the distillery. This particular one, again, is about, it's the highest ABV, but 46.4, 46.3, or 46, there's really not a whole lot of difference in them. But again, what makes these 20-something very special is it was made from the old distillery in the old still. I've never been to Ardbeg, but I've seen plenty of pictures. I've read up about the distillery plenty, and actually that still is in the courtyard, I believe they call it the courtyard, at the new distillery as a display. So the whiskeys that were produced before the distillery reopened in early 2001 or 2, I believe, those whiskeys are just not going to be the same as from the whiskeys that were produced from the older still. And I got to tell you, these Ardbeg 21, 23, 22s are just amazing Ardbegs. And I'm happy to be able to tell you what the last one in the series, the 22, has to offer, if you can find it. So let's get into it. Ardbeg 22, again, bourbon cask maturation only, no sherry maturation. And I don't know if this had any type of finishing or if one cask or casks in the batch just went all the way. I really tried to read it up as much as I possibly could, but they really didn't tell anything as far as whether or not there was a finishing done in another type of bourbon cask, or is this the same bourbon cask that it was essentially filled in way back in 1996. This one was released in 2018, hence the 22 years. And with that, let's get into it. First thing to notice is a nice light gold color, maybe shade darker than gold, shade or two darker than gold. All Ardbegs are natural color and unchill filtered, which is extremely nice. This is not cask strength at 46.4, but it's a good ABV for any whiskey. 46, if you're working with 45.7 or above, probably isn't chill filtered, and that's pretty nice offering. All right, on the smell, or on the nose, I should say. This has an incredible nose. Such a step up from the 21, which is also just bourbon matured. Instantly, you are getting vanilla and lime and peat. Very similar to the flavors as you get out the traditional Ardbeg 10. I mean, you're going to get, vanilla, you're going to get peat, you're going to get lime. But the vanilla and the lime in this are so different. It's so rich and full, rounded. These aren't, the first smell that kind of hits your nose when you nose it is going to be a little bit of that Ardbeg smoke, but I mean, right there with it is the lime. And the lime is just incredible. And then a little bit of nuttiness comes up, but a very distinct nuttiness that I really haven't gotten in another whiskey before. I've said almonds, burnt almonds, shaved almonds, or just general nuttiness in whiskey reviews many times, but this one is distinctive. It is hazelnut. Not a nut that I guess I'm super passionate about, but that's what it is. I mean, it's hazelnut. With just a little bit of pine needle. I have a row of pine trees on one side of my house. And depending on kind of what time it is, usually in the fall, a few needles will fall and you get that nice pine needle aroma. It's that, but again, just like with the vanilla and the lime, it is so rounded and so full. And then something that I pick up on the 23, a very bready, almost pastry-like quality, very similar to, say, like a Springbank. Now, I'm not trying to say this is similar at all in smell and taste to Springbank at all. It's not. But the bready, doughy quality is there, which I've come to really notice or come to identify that smell with a really quality whiskey. You don't get it very often. Usually you have to have a good age with some really good casks. And that's what we're getting here. Almost, it's sort of buttery too, sort of like buttery pastries. Like if you guys are here in the States, breakfast places like Bob Evans. But here in Columbus, Ohio, we have a place called the Crackle Barrel. The Crackle Barrel is a breakfast place. It's a chain, but you don't see them as often as you do, say, a Bob Evans or a TJ's. And the Crackle Barrel, they have these biscuits. They put this butter over, and the biscuits are really hot, and the butter just melts really nice, and you get a lot of that on the nose as well. Really nice. All right, first sip time. That is alive on the palate. For as refined as it was on the nose with the flavors, tastes, or with the smells, on the palate, it comes alive. I mean, it tastes, I don't want to say younger than it smells. Yeah, it tastes younger than it smells, but not a young whiskey. It's just very zingy, if that's a word. I mean, it really pops on the palate. You get a lot of smoke, even when you first touch it, or when it first touches your palate. Ton of smoke. Salt, rich chocolate, and I mean a rich chocolate, which is a note that I got on the 23, which made more sense because, it was Oloroso sherry matured as far as the finishing period. This one right here is a beautiful, salty chocolate bar. And there's those nuts again. Now, I said hazelnut, and it was very distinctive on the nose. On the palate, it's not hazelnut, it's like a roasted nut. Roasted nuts in general. And not something like a peanut, but like roasted almonds, something a little lighter with just a drizzle of salt on it. And then a very meaty characteristic, something I get with a lot of peated whiskeys, especially the Southern Islas. But this is very specifically salted ham. It's not beef brisket or anything else that I've described a smoky whiskey with. This is very distinctive salted ham, almost like a honey baked ham at Thanksgiving time, which is incredible. All right, so I threw a little bit of water in this. Tried to open up just a little bit more. Like I said, bottle's been open for months now. It's about halfway down. It's really at a good spot in my opinion. Being very familiar with the 21 and the 23, having multiple bottles of those. This one is really opened up nice by the time I got to it. Had a couple sips a week ago, just to kind of see where it was at. I knew it was time. So I had to kind of write down some of my initial thoughts on it and schedule some time in the camera so I could bring it to you guys and ladies. Okay, so put a little bit of water in it, and it definitely muted the smoke, and it kind of took a little edge off that beautiful lime that I was talking about earlier. But I tell you what, the pastry and the dough stepped up. Oh, it's like what you would imagine Paris would be like if you walk through went to like a bakery, that was doing doughs. Never been to Paris, but I have never smelled such a beautiful dough pastry smell in a whiskey before. Now, if you were one of the people that got the 21-year-old Ardbeg when it first came out, I believe back in 2016, and you were slightly disappointed with it, don't think that this is just Ardbeg 21 a year older. This is, in my opinion, a nice step up from what the 21 had to offer. And I've had multiple bottles of the 21. I got 2 bottles and they're still sitting unopened, and 1 bottle that's sitting open. I'm telling you, this is a better whiskey than the 21-year-old. Is it better than the 23? That's going to come down to one question for you. Do you like Ardbeg Uigeadail better than the 10-year-old, or do you like the 10-year-old better than the Ardbeg Uigeadail? If you like the 10-year-old better, I bet you like this better than the 23. If you like Uigeadail better, I bet you like the 23 better than the 22. Me personally, I would say the 23 is a slight bit better, only because I think the Oloroso Sherry with that Ardbeg really does something a little bit extra to it. But as far as strictly bourbon matured and exactly the true spirit of Ardbeg, this is an incredible whiskey. If you're a fan of Ardbeg, maybe you have some of the old bottles, the 77, the 76, the Provenance, some of those bottles. It probably isn't on par with some of those, but anything that Ardbeg has produced and put out recently, as far as a non-sherried finished whiskey, this one is just incredible. All right, let me get back to the nose here. Okay, now with water, something else is coming up that I just recently started picking up on Ardbegs, and that's kind of that metallic smell that I got on the 23 that I never really got on the younger whiskeys at all. Maybe that has something to do with age, maybe that has something to do with the strength of the ABV with the Uigeadail and the Corey Vrecken. I never really got that sort of metallic smell. I was kind of questioning myself when I was first trying the 23-year-old. That maybe my senses were off, and I went back to it another day. I was like, no, I'm getting that metallic smell again. So I remember when I posted that video, a couple of commenters said, no, that's something we pick up with a lot of Ardbegs, was something that I just personally missed. Maybe it was just my particular sense of smell, but with these 23 and 22-year-olds, I'm definitely getting that metallic smell, and it comes out more with water. I would imagine because it tones down that lovely, lovely vanilla and lime. Not that they're not there, but they're just definitely muted with a little bit of water. And that nuttiness is there again, but again, it's not the same hazelnut that as it was before without water, or when I had sniffed it neat. Yeah, so I'll say this, like with anything, water changes a few things, but I prefer it without water, and this is probably the third time I've had a dram of it recently, and I've thrown a little bit of water here and there, and this is not something that's new. I do prefer this whiskey neat. Okay, last sip time, and we'll give you a score and tell you what I think. with the water. I didn't prefer it on the nose, but on the palate, I don't know. It really changed it up a little bit in a nice direction. The chocolate was already a nice, silky, very refined chocolate. Is even just more so. It is just a silky milk chocolate. Salty, nutty. There's that ham again. That ham comes in after you swallow for a few seconds. Lime, vanilla, no lemon. I always got lemon with the 10. There's no lemon in this. It is distinctively lime. Again, the roasted nuts. There's that vanilla, salted ham. Wow. Salted honey baked ham. Just, wow, just an incredible, incredible whiskey. These are not easy to find. I'm a person who will go to great lengths and spend probably too much money getting the whiskeys that I really want. I really wanted this whiskey. It was not easy to get my hands on, and I had to essentially invoke the help of a friend to even bring you guys a review on it. But I really wanted to talk about this 22-year-old just to round out the series. It was the last one in the 20-something series. Back in 2016, we got the 21. 2017, we got the 23. And we got, in 2018, this lovely, lovely 22-year-old. Again, from what I've been able to read, roughly only 6,000 bottles. So if you haven't had a chance to get it, secondary market prices are going to go crazy. I think roughly retail was $500, $550 to begin with. Secondary prices, you know how that goes, guys. It really is going to be an expensive whiskey at this point to get your hands on. But for those of you who do have this bottle and had a chance to taste it, or maybe a good friend of you or a good friend of yours was able to share it with you, I'd love to know what you guys think. For me personally, I am at I hate to do half scores. I'm between a 91 and a 92. I don't want to give it a 91 because I feel like that's low. I feel like I've rated lesser whiskeys at a 91, and I have. But 92, I feel like is as much as I want to push this whiskey as far as a whiskey score. But that's a common thing. As time goes by, more whiskeys you try, your palate changes. You're going to knock down or pump up a score of a whiskey that you had tried previously. So I'll say right now, I'm going to give it a 92 out of 100. It's something that I think is an extremely special bottle. If you're a fan of Ardbeg, especially the older Ardbegs, especially the traditionally matured bourbon-only Ardbegs, you really owe it to yourself to try to get one of these bottles, even if it costs you $700 or $800. If you're a fan of that style of whiskey, you will be extremely pleased with this, at least in my opinion. Well, that's another whiskey review for you guys. Hope you guys appreciated it, and I'd like to hear what you guys think if you had a chance to try this whiskey. Until next time, I will see you in the comments section, and I wish you happy drinking.